Everybody, Sue Hitzmann, creator of the MELT Method. Happy Thursday. I hope everybody's having a great day today. I wanted to come on and talk a little bit about an interesting conversation I've been having with a friend of mine who was talking about ADD and ADHD and, how it kind of disrupts life and all these things. And I said, one of the primary origins of ADD and ADHD isn't TikTok, although I do really think it's a problem. Okay, we are causing mental disruption with things like TikTok. The ability for people to maintain their train of thought or focus, I think, is going right out the door. But more than that, did you know how important breathing is to your mental well-being? The breath, how we breathe, can we actually be breathing incorrectly? And I said to him, oh yeah, do you know if you have sleep apnea? Do you snore? Things like this. And these are really important things. And he had said he had gotten a sleep apnea test at one point and, it didn't really show so much or whatever. And I thought, it can't be. So there's a couple of things to even think about. There's a lot of research done on the idea of breath. And, ideally we can breathe through our nose, inhalation and exhalation. Your mouth is for food. Your sinuses are for breathing, right? But a lot of us become mouth breathers. And I always say, if you don't use it, you lose it. Right? If you're not using your sinus passages for breathing, it can cause all sorts of disruption, emotional trauma. It can decrease your libido and your sex drive. It can cause erectile dysfunction in men. It can cause menopausal symptoms that are far worse in women than they need to be. Breathing is the 101 thing that will help you with all of these dysfunctions, whether it's ADD or depression or anything. Learning to breathe properly, actually focusing on breathing, will entirely change your overall well-being. 100%, this is a fact. And there's even research showing that people who only breathe, like sometimes we have a blockage on one side. If you close, let's say for you guys probably you're looking at my right sinus, I'm pressing my left sinus and I'm breathing into my right side. And I'm just noticing how the breath enters. I go to the left side. And is one side harder to breathe into? Well, the right side has been shown to have more of a connection to our sympathetic tone and the left side to our parasympathetic tone. So if you tend to be blocked on the left side and you find that you suffer with anxiety, depression, poor digestion, I would not think that they were not linked, right? If I can't help myself go into a parasympathetic state, I have a problem, and breath is really important. So if you're a mouth breather, this can really disrupt every aspect of your thinking self, your feeling self, and for sure while we're sleeping, this has been a problem. James Nestor has a book called Breath or Breathe maybe, and they were talking about this research study where they actually taped people's mouths shut at night, and some of them, like literally it was so trippy for them at night, they felt like they were suffocating, but over the course of about 3 or 4 days it actually completely changed their sinus cavities. And for me, as a body worker, I work with people who have sleep apnea all the time, and the first thing I check is their hard palate. And for a lot of us, just from poor development as a kid, your hard palate kind of has a kind of a peak dome instead of being a nice wide open roof of the mouth, and that can cause obstructions in the vomer, which is a bone in your sinuses, and then deviate the septum and cause all sorts of issues as we age. So there's a lot of clients of mine that say, well, I never had any problems breathing when I was a kid. And I'm like, okay, well, life happens and you're not 7. You're 65. So time over tension overload. And if you breathe through your mouth all of the time, over time, your sinuses will deplete in the ability for them to open. And in our sinuses, there's like these little stalactites and stalagmites, if you will, like these ridges. It's not a smooth cavity. And oftentimes they can be full of bacteria and all sorts of stuff, just further causing damage to our potential to fully breathe properly. So today I wanted to maybe just give you guys a little food for thought. in one of the treatment techniques of MELT, and you can go to YouTube and type in MELT method and find the rebalance sequence. I've done the rebalance sequence piles of times here on Instagram and Facebook, so it's not like I'm hiding anything. I also have written a New York Times best-selling book that describes this treatment. It's so simple. It takes less than 10 minutes a day. And for those of you who aren't thinking about your breathing or you don't meditate, this would be something I would point you to right away and say, of all of the treatment techniques, maybe besides the hands and feet, I would encourage you to do is the one that I'm going to do for you today. Now, usually we would be lying the length of the roller along the spine to do the treatment, and the treatment actually has 4 techniques. There's a rest assess where you're actually identifying restrictions through the diaphragm. Anytime you lie the length of the roller, I would teach you to do gentle rocking. There's also a movement called tucking and tilting. These are all reconnect techniques. There's just ways to help your autonomic nervous system reacquire a connection to your center of gravity. But then there's 2 techniques. There's a 3D breath breakdown, which is the one I'm going to show you sitting upright, and then there's something called the 3D breath. Now, lying the length of the roller and doing something like this is always a lot more beneficial because you're doing something somewhat unique, right? You're lying lengthwise on your spine, and we never have pressure along the spine, right? When we lie on our back on the floor, if your body is in good alignment, actually very little of your spinous processes should touch the ground. There really not much of any of the spinous processes should have weight to the floor. Your ribs, your pelvis, and your head bear the weight of the body in a supine position. So lying the length of the roller can trigger some autonomic adaptations involuntarily simply because you have pressure on your sacrum and pressure along the spine, okay? So it definitely helps to alter issues in the neurological reflexes and makes a bigger impact. But what I'm going to teach you today is, and I'm asking you to do this with me, take the next 5 minutes of your day out, and we're going to focus on taking 9 breaths, only 9. I'm just going to ask you to take 9 focused breaths, but what we're going to do is intentionally breathe in 3 directions. Okay, so the first one, sit up nice and tall. You're going to put one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly, and all I want you to do is try to take 3 slightly slower than normal inhalations, as if you could inhale and expand your diaphragm depth-wise, so that as it contracts, it's going to give you a sensation that your back body has moved backward, your front body has moved forward, and here's the trick of it, is I want you to take these 3 breaths in a way that you feel your chest and your belly cavity equally expand through the inhalation. Okay, so we're going to do this 3 times. One hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. You're going to breathe into your back and front body slowly. And then we're going to exhale. Okay, so slow down the breath as much as you need to feel your chest and belly expand. Let's do it again. Inhaling. And exhaling. And we're going to do one more. Inhaling. And exhaling. All 3 breaths have come in and out from your nose. Okay? So now the second direction that you're going to do is you're going to put your hands on the sides of your ribs. And in the same fashion, I want you to think about breathing from a midline out to the sides of the body 3 times. Ready? Here we go. And again, inhalation. One more time, breathing in. And then exhaling. Okay, so one more direction. You're going to put one hand all the way down onto your pelvic floor and all the way up to your collarbones. And this time I want you to think of a breath that's going to inhale down to your pelvic diaphragm so that you almost feel your diaphragm in the pelvis spreads out as much as your pleural region, your cervical diaphragm, also expands upward. So the pleura of the lungs expand. So here we go, 3 times. Second time. And third time. okay? So on your own, at any point of the day, you're going to, and this is just part one, we've got one more thing to do. So again, you're going to take 3 slightly slower than normal breaths into the front and back of your body. All through your sinuses. 3 times you're going to breathe into the sides of your body. And 3 times you're going to breathe the length. Okay, so for about 60 to 90 seconds, you're thinking about inhaling slightly slower than normal inhalations into the front back body, into the side bodies, and into your length body, okay? And then after you do that, you're now going to take 6 breaths, and we're going to do 3 sounds 3 times, and the one that seems to give you more of what we're going to call the core reflex, which is as we exhale, there is a subtle engagement in our deep aspects of our abdomen, and it's involuntary, okay? It's part of where transversus abdominis, multifidus, and the pelvic floor actually activate on a muscular level because of the signaling that happens through this neuromyofascial channel. In MELT, we call it the neurocore. So when we inhale, the diaphragm contracts, but as we exhale, the diaphragm relaxes and the core reflex activates. So we're going to take a nice 6-sided breath in. And then on the exhale, we're going to slow our exhale down with a shh. We're going to do it again. This time we're going to make a until there's no breath left and you're looking for that contraction that sort of feels like a bearing down of all of your organs. And then the third breath is an HA. We're going to do all 3 again. Notice what you feel in your torso. And then one more time. Okay, so whichever sound kind of draws your awareness to sort of a hugging, a squeezing from all 6 sides, not just front to back, but front to back, side to side, and top to bottom. It kind of feels like everything is squeezing internally. Do that sound 2 more times on your own. One more time. Okay, so now 3 times without forcing any exhalation. We're going to inhale through our nose. We're going to do a natural exhalation through our sinuses, but in the middle of it, we're going to try and feel and follow and sense that engagement. Here we go. Right, so on the inhale, feel yourself letting it all go. Let your natural exhale initiate the breath, and then feel and follow and see if you can sense that hugging. Let's do it 2 more times together. So again, you're going to inhale. Feel your abdomen soften and expand, and then as you exhale, feel and follow that deflation and then that hugging. One more time, inhaling, and then exhaling. Okay, so if you could do that, and you can feel that inhalation and that exhalation, you've done 3 things for yourself. You've helped to train your body to breathe back through your sinuses. You've boosted vagal tone. You've improved and increased your heart rate variability. And all of these things can be stress reducing and autonomic nervous system rebalancing. They're rebalancing techniques. So we have this reflexive and rooting and neurological mechanisms that stabilize us involuntarily. And oftentimes these things can be disrupted from poor sleep habits, from poor breathing, from too much stress, from environmental things, like if you're working, maybe you're working in construction, or you're a builder and you're around dust all the time, this can completely obstruct your sinuses. Maybe you're working in a not so great environment. You're working indoors all the time, and again, just not great purified air or anything. You're not outside in nature. These things can all cause obstructions. Maybe you are mildly allergic to your pets or the detergent that you use. I don't know. Maybe it's the food you're eating, right? Maybe you're drinking too much alcohol before you go to bed. Maybe you're eating too much dairy. All of these things can cause obstructions in the sinuses. And if you were, again, one of those kids that had braces when you were a kid, maybe it was a sinus problem and a hard palate problem that was being left unaddressed, and now you get these palate expanders and all these other things, but never really improved the sleep, the breath, and so that is still disrupting your sleep. And now as an adult, you have all of these problems that you never had when you were a kid. So doing these simple breathing techniques is a great starting place for you to begin to help your body heal so that you get a more restful night's sleep and that you actually improve your own sleeping potential. Because if we don't get a restful night's sleep, we wake up the next day with a backlog of accumulative stress, and our body's natural parasympathetic or rest and repair system gets kind of bogged down until your nervous system kind of thinks this tip scale is the balance scale. So we want to get you back to that easy zone where your body's stress and repair levels are balanced and equal in their potential to work and get you to move through the day and also rest through the night. Okay? So I want you once a day, if not twice, just to take a time out, go maybe out near a tree, go sit in the grass if you can. Put your hands on your body. Use the actual sensory reception in your hands, your proprioception. Put your hands on your chest and on your belly. Take 3 slightly slower than normal breaths into your front and back body. Take 3 slightly slower than normal breaths into your side body. And then take 3 slightly slower than normal breaths into your length body. Breathe right into your genital organs, breathing and expanding through your self-center and to the front, back, to your heart and to your abdomen. It will help to nourish and bring oxygen throughout your body. It can actually help to heal your body if you're sick. This is super important for you guys who are dealing with COVID or anything like that, is to ensure that your diaphragm and your lungs can expand and retract properly. Okay? So breathing through your sinus is super important. If you find through the day while you're working that your mouth is open and you're breathing, shut your mouth and start breathing through your sinuses. And if you have to, put a freaking piece of tape on your mouth and see if you can breathe through your sinuses for more than 10 minutes at a time. And if you suddenly feel like you have anxiety, this is your brain saying, I'm not getting enough oxygen, which is a clear indication that your sinus cavities are not able to allow oxygen and nutrients to pass through the body. Super important that we breathe through our sinuses. So again, if you have any of these types of issues, ADD, ADHD, get off TikTok and then start breathing through your sinuses. If you have asthma, COPD, work to breathe through your sinuses. If you feel like you have sleep apnea or any type of sleep disruptions, you snore, you definitely have sinus issues, right? So again, we can help ourselves by identifying a problem, and when we know what a problem is, we now can find a solution. But if we don't know what the problem is, how do we fix anything, right? Be proactive by recognizing that maybe there's something going on in your sinuses causing emotional distress, anxiety, depression, worry, fear. All of these things can actually be disrupted because you're not breathing properly, okay? I think it's an origin for many issues that is not talked about enough. So again, I want you to go to YouTube, go to MELT Method, and find the rebalance sequence and practice the rebalance sequence, because if you lie the length of the roller and you perform the full treatment, it will literally in 10 minutes improve heart rate variability, improve vagal tone, and make you sense a little more ease in your body. And also lying in a supine position will alter your sinus cavities overall. And if you have trouble breathing when you're upright, try supine. If you have trouble supine, come back upright until you can breathe in any position that you're in. I hope that that gives you some food for thought. I'm going to see if there's any questions about the topic that I am talking about today and see if there's anything else that I can help you guys with. I hope that this all makes sense for you. Super important. Breath is where it starts, right? And the one thing that I always think of is I do mouth tapping at night. It's great, but weird and not distracting. I believe that, Ellie. I think that's exactly right. Any of these things, anything that you can find is like so super important. And just think about this. The one you have 99% of what happens to you in a day is out of your voluntary control or conscious awareness. We don't think about digesting food. We don't think about blood flow. We're not thinking about transporting oxygen or moving cellular waste through our lymphatic system. We're not thinking about our glial cells and how those are operating to clean up our brain at night. No, we're not thinking about any of this stuff, right? And in fact, we don't really think about breathing. We do it like 28,000 times a day. And how can we not be good at it? Because we do it so often, but we can actually train ourselves out of a normal respiration pattern. So the one autonomic aspect of our body that we can very quickly take over is breathing. Isn't that amazing? Of all of the autonomic aspects of our body, the one that's most important for life is the one we can consciously take over with our minds. The rest of them we can't. I can't make my food digest better. I can't take a poop whenever I feel like it. It just happens when it happens, right? So it's really important that you gravitate toward this concept of breath and moving your breath through your sinuses and learning to breathe. There's all sorts of techniques, restricted breathing. Right, there's all these techniques that you can do. You could actually clog up your nose for a day and only breathe through your mouth, and then take the plugs out and you'll probably feel better, right? You'll actually probably retrain yourself into breathing through your mouth. But again, if you have any of those types of disorders or anxiety issues or anything, everything will heal at the beginning with the breath. The breath is the first thing you got to get a handle on. So I hope that you'll check out the Rebalance Sequence over on YouTube. Remember, I do have a streaming platform with hundreds of videos, and many of them have the Rebalance Sequence. There's lots of other techniques that you can learn to do, but for sure that would be the first one that I would encourage you to begin to do, especially if you think you are a snorer or a mouth breather, is to get yourself back into breathing through your sinuses. I think that will help you in all of your stress from day to day. Until I see you next time, sip water frequently, eat water-filled foods, reach out to somebody today. Just right now, don't think about it. Say, yes, Sue, I will do this for you because I love you. No, I want you to, as soon as you are done with this, if you've taken the time, I want you to randomly call somebody in your Rolodex and say, hey, I was just thinking about you. Sue told me I should call somebody that I love and tell them why I love you. And this is why I love you. And just put a little bit of that positive fairy dust out into the universe, because it'll elevate the frequency of the whole universe. I'd really appreciate that today. I hope that this was helpful for you guys and that you'll try to do some focused breaths in 3 directions as a 3D breath breakdown and a 3D breath, perhaps later on today before you go to bed. Happy melting.